Hey everyone, it's Sensei Victoria Whitfield here, your journey partner in business, welcoming you back to episode 85 of the Journeypreneur Podcast. This is your source for channeled holistic stress management techniques, guidance, inspiration, and motivation to stay on your path to rapid financial ascension and massive impact as a conscious entrepreneur. And all right, I have another interview for you. My friend Tobe Brockner, he and I both are in the 2 Comma Club X coaching program with Russell Brunson. And Tobe has this awesome movement called Basic Dads Unite. You can find him at basicdadsunite.com. And we're going to be getting into it and sharing with you all of the nuggets of wisdom that he's picked up from over 15 years in business on his journey as an entrepreneur. So Tobe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Victoria. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So this may be the very first time that someone is meeting you or getting to hear about your work. So how I like to do things around here is when you tell us what you do, give us, what are the 3 things that you are known for in your business? Could you tell us?
Yeah, I think if I were to pick 3 things, I think probably the first thing that would come to mind, people identify me as a marketer first and foremost. I would probably be described as very good at marketing. Probably the second thing is creativity. I owned a creative agency for many, many years, and I was very adamant that advertising and marketing didn't have to be ugly, that it could be effective and beautiful. So I think I kind of planted a flag in the ground around that. And then probably the third thing is pragmatic would be the word I would use. I actually have a podcast called The Pragmatic Idealist.
Yay!
And yeah, I'm an idealist at heart, but I also understand that you've got to get down in the trenches sometimes and get your hands dirty and do the practical stuff that moves your business forward. So that's probably what I would say.
I love that. Oh, I love that. It's so balanced. And thank you for saying that marketing can be like beautiful. It doesn't have to be hard or ugly or crunchy. Like, I'm curious, could you tell me a little bit more about that? That sounds awesome.
Yeah, well, I came up, I graduated from Boise State University back in 2003, late 2002, December 2002. So I basically started my career in December 2003. And I started in direct response copywriting. And the old school direct response guys, they sort of scoffed at any notion of design at all. Their whole thing was, if it sells, it sells. It doesn't matter what it looks like. And to an extent, that's true. And it was particularly back then. But, this was back in the day when you would get a 32-page sales letter in the mail.
Whoa.
And it was just white paper with black text on it.
Oh, man.
And blocks of text. And they'd break it up with headlines and subheads and bullets and stuff. But it was ugly. But it worked. And so the argument between the design community and the direct response copywriting community was always, we're separate. You do your thing. We're going to do ours. And they sort of looked at each other with disdain. The first instance of cooperation between these departments was really back in the 60s at BBD&O, a big ad agency in New York, where one of the partners at BBD&O actually put the copywriters and the art director in the same room and said, here, hash this out. It had never been done before.
Wow.
What normally happened was the art director would create something and then he would send it upstairs to the copywriting department and they would write the copy for it and they would never talk to one another. And Bob Doyle at BBD&O said, this is nuts. Why are we doing it this way? And so he started that kind of crack in the dam, if you will. And in my own tiny little way, I tried to carry that forward and mix copy, design, and advertising. And, in 2019 in particular, there's just no excuse for ugly design anymore.
Oh, thank you for doing that. And I love the story too, because like when we're working in isolation, or departments are working in isolation, it's like, oh, but when it comes together, there's this natural creative collaboration that can happen. Like you just put them together and you guys figure it out, that spark of inspiration totally changed the industry. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So, okay, so went to school for that, got into copywriting. Tell me, was there like, what was the moment that you decided to start your business? Like, what was did you have an epiphany? Do you remember where you were or what was going on? Like, why did you decide to start working for yourself?
It wasn't nearly as romantic as that. I mean, I have a DNA. My DNA is streaked with entrepreneurial strands. My grandfather owned I grew up in Louisiana. I live in Idaho now, and I've been here over 20 years. So I consider myself an Idahoan, which would probably make my family cringe. But my grandfather owned a small finance company in rural Louisiana, actually in Monroe, where the Duck Dynasty guys are, if you're familiar with that at all. And we grew up in that. I was born in that area. I grew up in Shreveport, which is about an hour and a half west. My dad opened up his own finance company. My uncle had a finance company. So everyone around me was an entrepreneur. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I just knew that was the only thing I knew. I didn't realize, like most kids grow up thinking, oh, I'm going to go get a job somewhere. I grew up thinking, oh, I need to go start my own business.
All right. Okay.
Because that's all I knew. That's all I saw. And so I remember sitting on the back of my buddy's pickup truck and the day after we graduated high school, and he said, we were talking about what we were going to do. And he said, are you going to go work with your dad? And I said, I'll probably do that. We'll see what happens. And he said, well, if you go and work for him, are you going to call it Brockner and Son? And I said, no, we're going to call it Brockner and Father. No, I never dreamed that I would be working for anyone, even my own dad. It was, I was always going to own it and do whatever it was. And so in 2003, right after I'd graduated from Boise State, when I was too dumb and too broke to know what I was doing, I started a marketing company. I had gone into finance. I was selling insurance and annuities, that kind of a thing, and started up a small little call center just to do cold calls to set appointments for me. That was the only thing I knew how to get new business. And we started generating leads. This is when people would actually, they had a landline and they would pick up the phone and talk to you. And we would set leads, and I couldn't go to all of them. We were generating so many leads, I couldn't get to all of them. So I started selling the leads to other insurance agents. And I started making more money doing that than going on appointments. So I was like, I'm not doing the insurance thing anymore. I'm just going to do marketing. And that's how I got into marketing originally in 2003. And I've been doing marketing in some variation ever since.
I love it. Oh, I love how organic that was. Just like doing what you know best, looking for, all right, like here's the opportunity of, I could generate leads all day, but I can't. Like that. Every time we create a solution, there's this new problem that comes up, but you found the profitable problem that you generated, and then started making money off of it. That's awesome.
My strong suit for many years was not planning. I didn't put a lot of thought into what I was doing. I just did it, whatever I needed to do to survive and to grow. I had my college degree. I went to college and got a degree at Boise State, and my degree's in international business. And the only reason I picked international business is because I can speak Spanish fluently and could test out of the language portion. That was the sole thought I gave to what my college degree was going to be.
Wow, my God, I love it.
That's changed a little bit over the years, but I flew by the seat of my pants for a long time there.
Well, you know what? You get a lot more done if you just start doing stuff. It's a fast track to learning, that's for sure. Oh, this is so good. So, okay, like you're Action Jackson. You're like, all right, so I'm going to go and try this stuff out and do what I can, see what works. Have you ever had some experiences, and this, I know this is a loaded question, super loaded, I know, but have you ever had some experiences where, okay, you've been trying to make money as an entrepreneur, and things are going along, but you keep kind of like hitting a wall, and it's to the point where you're like, you know what? Maybe I should just throw in the towel. Maybe I should. I think of how some of my friends are like, why don't you just get a real job? Have you ever had one of those moments where you're like, you could have thrown in the towel? And if so, like, what did you do? What did you tell to yourself? Like, what was going on?
Yeah, there have been, obviously any entrepreneur is going to have multiple instances where they want to throw in the towel. And I think that's one of the things that kind of sets an entrepreneur apart from the rest of the population, is that we just don't give up ever. Even if we have to pivot, even if somebody looks at what we're doing and saying, oh, they did give up on that business, we still usually will pivot to another business. It is I don't know of very many entrepreneurs, friends of mine who have, or people that I don't know who are entrepreneurs, that have failed in a business and gone and gotten a job. I know that happens. I can't think of any instances of that right off the top of my head, just because anybody that I know that's ever, quote unquote, failed in a business has always just turned around and started something new. And I've done the same thing in different ways. Back in 2013, into 2013, I had run the original marketing company that I started in 2003. We'd been running it for about 10 years. At one point, we were doing about 10 million a year in revenue. We had about 150 employees. It was utter chaos. We didn't have a very good bookkeeping system in place. We got messed up on payroll and taxes and income taxes and revenue. And it was just a giant mess. And into 2013, I got a visit from the IRS. Guy came to my office and he said, we're opening up an audit on you and your company, all your business dealings. And we are going to, my best estimates at this point show that you owe $1 million in back taxes.
Wow, oh boy.
And I mean, you want to talk about a punch in the gut. I was like, I knew I was behind, but I had no idea that it was that bad. And it turned out to not be quite that bad. My attorney, I hired an attorney and an accounting firm, and we ended up getting it cleaned up. Took 3 years to get it all squared away and settled with the IRS. But I ended up having to, we settled for, $300 and something $1,000. I don't remember what the exact number was, but
fantastic.
It basically wiped me out.
Yeah.
Completely. I had to sell my house. I had to sell my assets. I had to liquidate my savings, everything. So it basically set me to zero. Obviously this caused a huge strain on me and my partners in the company. So we parted ways. I walked away and said, I'm not doing this anymore. Like the way you are, flying by the seat of your pants is one thing, but not paying taxes is another. And so I said, I'm not doing this. Walked away, and I started a new creative agency, ad agency from there. But I was very, very close at that point to giving up and just saying, I can't do it. This is too big for me to handle. I thought for a while there, several months, I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. My hair turned gray, literally. Like you always look at presidents when they go into office, they have like this nice full head of hair, and then they come out and they're like completely gray.
Yep.
From the stress. That's what happened to me. I mean, my hair went almost completely gray. My weight ballooned up just because I was eating like crazy, just trying to, I don't know what I was trying to eat my feelings, I guess, whatever.
Oh yeah, totally.
But it was a horrific time period in my life for about that 3 years. And I remember my little girl, Scarlett, she's 13 now. She was about 7 or 8 at the time. And I would read to her every night and go to lay with her until she fell asleep. And I remember she looked up at me after we had read, and I was laying there and I was just worried to death, just running through these scenarios in my mind. And she was laying there in my arms, and she kind of looked up at me, and I looked down at her, and she said, "Dad, don't ever leave me." And it just broke my heart. I mean, because the IRS was threatening me with jail, with criminal penalties. They were saying, you're intentionally doing it. And I was like, I'm not intentionally doing any of this. Like I wasn't trying to hide revenue or anything like that. And I knew in my heart of hearts, I wasn't doing anything wrong, but they had this thing on me. And when she said that, I just completely broke down. And I was like, I have got to fix this. And so I did. I dug in and I said, IRS be damned. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make it right. I've paid it off. I've got everything going now, and I'm gonna build this back up from nothing, and like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yes.
That's what I did.
Yay! Oh my goodness! Like, oh, this is so. Oh my gosh!
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, though. Oh my gosh, it was
totally.
horrible.
But holy cow! How you were able to like turn that around is so. And oh man, with your daughter saying "Don't ever leave me," that just hitting you right in the heart. But also, this is like in my mind, it's like her pushing the go button of like, all right, it's go time. Like, yeah. Dad's gonna go and gonna go like hard, whatever it takes. Oh, that is so powerful. And I just have to honor you, Tobe. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for opening up and sharing that. Because that's like, holy cow, what a tough time in your life. And I know for our listeners who are following along right now, like to get to hear that story and know that even if the IRS comes knocking and they're saying, all right, we're estimating you owe $1 million, like to take a deep breath in, exhale, and know that, oh snap, I am not the first person on the face of the earth that this has ever happened to. Like, this is not going to kill me. And in fact, hearing your story, Tobe, like, there are steps, like success leaves breadcrumbs, like success leads clues. So getting to hear your story of like, okay, I got an attorney and this took 3 freaking years, but it didn't take 30, right? It took 3 years of and it wasn't $1 million, it was 300,000. And you know what? This also might, like, your health can get affected. You could be eating your feelings. Like, your body could go through changes when you're under, like, a tremendous amount of stress. And it can affect your family. But you know what? When you know what comes first, if family comes first, let your heart hit your go button so that it's go time, so you can go all in and you can turn it around. What's so powerful also about your story, Tobe, is that your identity is so solid of like, I'm an entrepreneur. This is who I am. Like, there's no giving up. Like, this is who I am. If we're going to the bottom in this business, okay, I'm just going to turn around and create something else. Like, that is massive. Like, to everyone listening in, like, I want you to just do like a copy paste of that mindset. Just like copy paste that mindset.
Well, my wife and I mean, we obviously had discussions about that of, maybe you should just go get a job. I mean, I'm functionally unemployable. There's no way I can work for anyone else. I mean, I had a job one time in the summer of between my junior and senior year at McDonald's, and I got fired after a month because I'm like, why are we doing this like a bunch of idiots? Like, this is the dumbest way to do this. I'm a 16-year-old kid telling $1 billion corporation that they're doing it wrong. I would get fired in a heartbeat working for anyone else. And, we talk about you talk about risk and like, well, being an entrepreneur is so much riskier than being an employee. And I'm like, maybe, but if I'm an employee, I only really have to, make one person upset with me to get fired, and that's my boss. If I'm an entrepreneur and I upset a client or two, my business can survive. They can fire me, and I won't like it, but I'm not going to go anywhere off of that. And you're right about the identity part. That was just how I identified myself, as I am an entrepreneur. And if I were to be an employee, that would be one of probably the most painful things I could ever imagine. And that was, having my family there, my wife's support. She was so incredible during this entire time period. I mean, she was really mad at me. And I have a real gift for irritating her, but she just stuck by me, and my kids, you know, they knew things were rough. They weren't really old enough to kind of know exactly what was going on, but they knew things were bad. But having that sort of deep sense of why you're doing what you're doing can help you overcome almost anything.
100%.
I don't want to go through it again, but if I did, you know, I could get back out of it. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. That's, you know, back to your question, do you have any advice? That's the advice, is just understanding that this too shall pass. You know, nothing is permanent. Even your success, even the wins are not permanent. And you have to be ready to pivot and to make changes and to go with the tide and do what you have to do to craft a life worth living.
100%, because that's worth it. A life worth living is totally worth it. That's what we're here for. We're not just here to like do stuff or clock in and clock out, or like to just go about this willy-nilly. Like, this is to really, like, if I'm going to live my life, I want to ride it till the brakes fall off, man. Let's do this, right?
Yeah.
Be able to live full out. And I'm also curious here, what would you have to say to the men that are listening in right now who are really trying their best to support their family, right? But also to stand by that identity of like, I'm an entrepreneur and I got to support my family. Like, what, like, as a man, like I'm a woman, I'm a female, right? It's female here. And like how I feel and how I would process that kind of an experience, and how I would speak to women about it, how to hold down the feminine side would be entirely different because of, you know, who I am genetically, right, and emotionally. But as a man, Tobe, what would you say to other men, like really staying rooted and staying focused to being able to provide? Like, what would you say to the men listening?
Yeah, and this was a thing that I struggled with, and one of the reasons I created Basic Dads Unite, the program, because I let myself go in so many different areas of my life, and my health, for example, and my relationships suffered, and I had no hobbies really. I was just so focused on my business and so focused on doing it by myself. My ego just got in the way of, and I don't know if it was ego as much as it was. There's still a stigma with men, unfortunately, that they have to be everything and they can't ask for help and they can't be vulnerable and they can't open up, and it's all just BS. And I wish I had known then what I know now. Like 2CCX, being in this coaching program has been one of the most beneficial things I've ever done in my life. But the reason it has been is because my attitude in coming to it. I shelved my ego. I came in at the beginning of 2CCX and I told myself, you know nothing. We're going to assume, and I'm having this internal dialogue with myself. Tobe, you know nothing about business, about marketing, about anything. You are here to absorb and to learn and to make connections and to try to understand other people's perspectives. And it has been eye-opening by doing that. Before, I would have been closed off and said, this is how I'm doing it. This is how I do it. You don't know what you're talking about. But I've just come into it with an open mind, and having that peer support has been incredible. And again, that's one of the reasons I created the Basic Dads Unite program, was to offer men that peer support where they could come in and they could open up and they could talk about, this is what's going on in my life, in my business. Here's what's going on with my health, or whatever it may be. So they have a safe place to go and talk about these things, because we really don't. There's a little bit of a movement that's kind of picking up now that's telling us men that it's okay. And I couldn't be more thrilled with that. And this has nothing to do with masculinity or tough or being, you know, whatever. It has everything to do with just being a human being, because we're all human beings at the end of the day, and we all need that support and that kindness and that love from our fellow human beings.
100%. Like, this is so perfect. It's not about like the whole macho, like alpha, top dog, all that types of stuff, trying to prove it. This is really sinking into that essence of like, we're being real here as human beings, like rather than trying to put on. And I cannot underline enough, like if you were a book and I was reading you right now, I would really, really, really underline when you just said the word safe, like to have a safe place to express knowing that like you're not going to get attacked, criticized, shamed, or pushed in a certain, like, say, agenda-based direction and all of that. Like, thank you, Tobe, for creating a safe space for men to support each other as peers. Like this, I sincerely believe, and I've spoken in previous podcast episodes about one of my favorite books of all time, especially for men, is Iron John by Robert Bly. And he like analyzed how in the more quote unquote civilized our society has become, and the rise of capitalism, the more decentralized our society has become. So that ability to connect and support one another in groups, or, before civilized society, it was called tribes, that to be able to have that brotherhood or that sisterhood or that community has been taken apart more and more over time. So I just want to honor you for creating a safe space for men to come together. Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to be very careful about how I did that too, because I didn't want it to be like, I want people to maintain their individuality and their sense of self, and that the way you do things may not be the way I do things. And that's okay. Like we're okay. We're part of this group, but we don't identify as the group necessarily. We're individuals that make up a group, and we all have and should celebrate our differences within that group. And where I'm at in my journey is completely irrelevant to where you're at in your journey or where someone else is at in their journey, because no two people walk the same path, as compatible as they may seem. They don't walk. There are just too many variables involved for us to say, well, this is the path I need to walk, because that path was unique to that person based on that point of time in their place, their skill set, their energy levels, everything that was going on, etc. And so I wanted to be very careful about, this is your path. Like I'm big on, the golden rule says you should treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yes.
In my mind, and this may be a little sacrilegious, in my mind, that seems inherently selfish, narcissistic. Like
yes.
I don't want to be treated the same way you would like to be treated.
Oh, that's so good.
We should live by the platinum rule, which is treat others the way they want you to treat them, because everyone is different, and what I like, you may not like, and what you like, I may not like. And so I shouldn't force my, beliefs or whatever on you. I should be sensitive to those things. Anyway, that's kind of, without getting too, mushy over it or whatever. And that's not what Basic Dads is. It's not a place where we go and sing Kumbaya and sit around. But it is a place where men can go and find tools and resources to be better men. And that's really what I was trying to design it for.
Yeah. And that, like, I thank you for that, because that fosters better children, better women, better communities, better business.
Absolutely. Ripple effect.
100%. Yeah. I love it. And dude, the platinum rule, what? That was so juicy.
I don't remember where I got that. I didn't make that up. I stole that from someone, but I cannot for the life of me remember where I heard that for the first time. But I love it. I think it's much more accurate worldview for me personally. Yeah. So I kind of hold it up as here's what I believe kind of a thing.
Totally. That's going on my quote wall. Yes. Oh man, Tobe, this has been amazing. Okay, so here's the thing. I love what you're creating here, and I know that my listeners who are, that fly on the wall, listen in the background. We are sending you so much love and juice, all our journeypreneurs out there following along with Tobe. Where do we get to go and celebrate you? Because I sincerely believe that good people deserve to be celebrated, because when good people are celebrated, they have the energy to do more good in the world. So where are we celebrating you? What's the website? What's the Insta? What's the offer? Tell us. Where are we going?
Yeah, you can find the Basic Dads Unite at basicdadsunite.com. I do have a Facebook group as well. If you just search Basic Dads Unite for any of the guys listening, I'd love to have you in the group. All of my social handles are just at Tobe Brockner. It's Tobe Brockner, Brockner. So at Tobe Brockner on Instagram. And I'm not real active on Twitter. I don't really care about Twitter. But Instagram and Facebook, I'm very active, very happy to accept friend requests from like-minded people. And on Basic Dads Unite, and this could be for women as well, there's a Get Started button right on the homepage there. So what I've done is I've created a training program to help you in having what I call intentional imbalance in your life. There's no way to give everything in our lives equal time and attention. There's just not enough of it to go around. So we have to be intentional about the imbalance that we've created in our lives. And so there are 6 basic categories on the website: health, wealth, relationships, career, self-improvement, and lifestyle. And you essentially pick 2 or 3 of those things that you want to work on the most. And you say, okay, I need to get my health in better, but I need to get in better shape there. I need to maybe focus on building some wealth, build up an emergency fund. And then I use a program called the 12-week year methodology. It's how to get more done in 12 weeks and most do in 12 months. And when you apply that program to these different areas of your life, magical things happen. You become a totally different person in a very short period of time. And it's a pretty slick way to achieve goals faster and at a more efficient rate. So I would invite you to go. There's a free video series there. If you just put in your email address, you can get access to kind of a 3-part video series that gives an overview of how that program works and how to implement it in your life.
Hot. I love it. Oh my goodness. So good. So guys, go check Tobe out. Celebrate the heck out of him. And also check out those freebies. Like, to be able to have that blueprint to get more done in 12 weeks, and then most would get done in 12 months. Come on. So good. Tobe, thank you so much for sharing that offer, for all of the powerful work you do in the world, brother.
My pleasure.
And turning it over now to our journeypreneurs listening in. Hey, thank you so much for tuning into the Journeypreneur Podcast. And if this is your first podcast episode, welcome. Go ahead, give us a 5-star review on iTunes, hit that subscribe button. But when you go in and give us that 5-star review, there's the comments box. Drop in there, hey, I listened to episode 85, and here's my favorite takeaway from Tobe Brockner. Give him a shout out there. What that would do is not only celebrate Tobe and also anchor the learning that you just received from today's podcast episode, but for all of your sisters and brothers out there who are on their path, continuing to serve as entrepreneurs, it would give them the strength and the inspiration to subscribe and keep on their journey to serving people and getting rapid financial ascension and massive impact for the highest good of all life. So that's it for today's podcast episode. And as always, I love to end with, please enjoy the journey that you are on. Do not lose your glow as you grow in life and business. And we'll see you in the next podcast episode. Mwah! Bye for now.
See ya.